Football is a game where you must know your enemy. You must know its every nuance, its strengths, its weaknesses. You must identify the enemy's primary target and neutralize that threat. You must know where the enemy is at all times and when and how it will strike. If you don't, you will pay dearly. At playoff time, the stakes are raised. Eliminate your enemy, or it will eliminate you. That time is here. That time is now.
It doesn't get any better than this. Playoff football, January football, Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We renew the great rivalry between the Vikings and the Green Bay Packers, meeting for the first time in the playoffs. Brett Favre and the Packers, Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper, and the Minnesota Vikings. And now welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I'm Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Chris Collinsworth in just a second. Well, here are the Green Bay Packers rolling into the playoffs, winners of 9 of their last 11 games, while the Minnesota Vikings, for the second year in a row, lose 7 of 10, yet get into the playoffs even after a loss at Washington because Carolina lost. And Troy Aikman, you're first up. I guess if history tells us anything about these two teams meeting this season, we ought to expect a lot of offense.
No question, Joe. I mean, you got 2 explosive offenses going against 2 struggling defensive teams, and to think that the Packers defensively are going to redefine themselves in the 17th game of the season is not realistic. The Packers, if they're going to win, they're going to win the same way they have all season long, and that's on the right arm of Brett Favre. The Packers feel that they can exploit the secondary for the Minnesota Vikings, and Chris, you've got to believe that in this game it's going to be much like the previous 2. The winner of this one's going to score a lot of points.
I hope so. Those other 2 were pretty good out there. But for Dante Culpepper, he has to be thinking, what in the heck do I have to do to beat the Green Bay Packers? In 2 games against the Packers this season, he's thrown 7 touchdown passes, no interceptions, over 400 yards of offense in each of those games, and yet he doesn't have a win to show for it. And if he's going to win today, he's going to have to get some help from Randy Moss, who flat out embarrassed himself last week walking off the field against the Washington Redskins. And what kind of performance is he going to put forth today? Goodness only knows.
We have not said much about defense, and here in Green Bay, when you think about defense, you think about the late and great Reggie White. This is the Packers' first home game here at Lambeau since the passing of Reggie 2 Sundays ago. They will honor him right now. Let's go to the public.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. The Green Bay Packers and the National Football League lost a dear friend with the passing of Reggie White. Now we honor his memory by observing a moment of silence.
We welcome you back to Lambeau Field. You're watching Fox Sports, broadcasting in 720p, the world's finest high-definition standard, and Dolby 5.1, presented by DirecTV. DirecTV, rethink TV. Right now, down to the field, Chris Myers with Vikings head coach Mike Tice.
Joe, thanks. Coach, it's been a tumultuous week. How would you describe the frame of mind of your team right now?
Oh, the team's doing fine. The team is prepared for this football game. And, you know, Green Bay Packers, we lost to them 2 tough games this season. They're ready to roll.
Randy Moss said he would bail you out today. Can you count on him?
Randy's going to make a lot of plays for us today.
All right, thanks a lot.
Right.
Okay, for a check on field conditions, let's go to the other sideline and Pam Oliver.
Hey, Chris, it's soft and slick, and it barely survived pregame warm-ups on Thursday. Workers removed snow from the covered field. Saturday, Brett Favre said it was about as bad as he'd ever seen it. Today, a whole bunch of guys agree. The only one who was really happy about it was field director Alan Johnson, who told me just a little while ago, for this time of year, what more can you expect? Back to you, Joe.
All right, Pam, thanks. That big Packers offensive line and the running game of the Packers might be happy about that. There's still time to select your singular fantasy football team for this week. Text message play to 63504 on your singular wireless phone, or vote on foxsports.com. We're glad you're with us. This should be fun. The Vikings and the Packers, 3rd time that they are meeting this season. The Packers have won each of the first 2 with finals of 34-31. Longwell will kick it away. Sit back and enjoy it. Could see Longwell slip as he kicked it. And from inside the 15, it's Ontario Smith. Good return. Ontario Smith getting it started the right way for the Vikings, yet just as I say that, a flag comes flying in, and we'll see if this will cost the Vikings some precious yards after that return of 34.
During the return, holding number 28, return team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, first down.
So they get Larry Ned, and from the spot of the foul, see where that puts the football. And there's Larry Ned, who is pleading his case, and we look at Dante Culpepper. Last 4 games against the Packers. Top number good, second number great, third number terrific, bottom number is the only one that matters.
And the fourth number's had nothing to do with his play.
After the penalty, starting at their own 24, the Vikings with Bennett in the backfield. And they hand to Michael Bennett. He ran into a wall. Big Grady Jackson and Cledius Hunt. A gain of 1. The offensive line is big, and that's why the Green Bay Packers end up starting Cledius Hunt after getting a slap on the wrist last week and not getting the start in Chicago. The backs and receivers, and we will have plenty to say today about Randy Moss. Jermaine Wiggins is the team's leading receiver as the tight end. Second down and 9. Culpepper slings it. Randy Moss. Al Harris slings him down. Moss got 7. Third and short coming up for Minnesota.
Well, by all accounts, it was the best week of practice that Randy Moss has had this season, the Minnesota Vikings have had this season. They took the gloves off in practice. They started hitting. They were more physical. They claim it's a different football team coming out here today. We shall see.
Third down and 2. Culpepper with time. Flushed out. Try to run for it. Now flip it. Pass is caught. Downfield. Mo Williams into the open field. No penalty flags. Touchdown Minnesota. What a start for the Vikings. On third down and 2, 68 yards from Culpepper to Mo Williams.
Well, this was a real problem in their last game, the big plays. Look at the timing that Culpepper has. He comes out to the left, and right there, it's when Nick Barnett comes up to take Culpepper is what opens it up for Mo Williams. There's nobody there then to defense him.
We've seen this Packers defense make so many mistakes this season, and for Nick Barnett to drop coverage and man coverage is just unforgivable.
So Brett Favre sitting and watching this now will get his turn. Opening possession for the Minnesota Vikings. It could not have gone any better.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of Super Bowl 39.
Well, you come in expecting a lot of offense. The Minnesota Vikings got that great kick return, then had the holding penalty. They've got to be thinking, well, there's another one of those penalties that's going to cripple us right here at the start. On a third and 2, 68 yards from Dante Culpepper to Mo Williams. And what does Brett Favre say about games like this? He said, yeah, you're kind of playing against the Minnesota defense, but at the same time, you're playing against the scoreboard, and you're playing against the Minnesota offense. And the Minnesota offense with a quick strike. This is Fisher on the return, and Tony Fisher gets it out to the 23.
You know, the last time these two teams got together, missed tackles were the story in that one as well. In the first half, we saw 3 straight plays where missed tackles came into play as the Vikings ran up and down the field, scoring touchdowns on each of these plays. And then you come back to open this game, and what happens? Darren Sharper misses a tackle, and Mo Williams is gone.
And so now Green Bay sets up with it. They start with a easy, quick toss to Amon Green, and he was knocked out of bounds quickly by Newman after a gain of only 2. We look at the offensive line, and it is one of, if not the best, across the NFL. Rivera's a Pro Bowler. Mike Wall should be. They do miss Mike Flanagan at center. They lost him in early October. And the backs and receivers, Amon Green, William Henderson, Javon Walker, a Pro Bowl year, and Driver was right there with him. Extra offensive lineman, Kevin Berry in the game, and no surprise, the Packers toss it. Amon Green gets 2, and that'll bring up 3rd down and 6. We look at the defense for the Vikings. No better for the Vikings. In fact, even worse. The Green Bay Packers, the 25th best defense in the league. The Minnesota Vikings, the 28th best. The linebackers are big, and they have a tendency to get confused. In the secondary, missing Corey Chavis, their strong safety. The quarterback of the defense is out with a fractured left elbow, so Willie Alford gets the start. 3rd and 6. Trying to get an easy 5. The Vikings don't come across too early, and the sack from Claiborne. Good start offensively and now defensively for the Minnesota Vikings. A loss of 10 as Claiborne gets the sack.
Yeah, and remember, Chris Claiborne was the one who had the interception for a touchdown in the last game. That time, they just do not pick him up inside. He times his splits perfectly. Brett Favre has no chance to get that ball out.
And you do see a little bit of what the heck going on with the Minnesota Vikings. They're just out there firing right now, taking chances and playing to win.
Line drive punt by Barker, pretty good one. Burleson on the return, and he gets it out to the 45. 45-yard punt, 6-yard return. Claiborne celebrates this into the face of Favre, and the Vikings have the ball and the lead.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Budweiser, the bright color and crisp, clean taste you'll only find in a king of beers.
Not even 4 minutes have elapsed in this first quarter, and this game has taken a dramatic turn in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. They scored on their 3rd play from scrimmage. They get a 3-and-out, including a sack, and they have the ball back. Culpepper fires, and wide open is Wiggins. And Jermaine Wiggins is brought down right at the marker. Appears maybe to be a couple of inches shy of a 1st down.
Dante Culpepper has been doing this all season long. Nothing there on the initial look. Scrambles out of the pocket, forces Nick Barnett to come and play him, and then just simply flips it over the top. Al Harris says that is what we are most concerned about, that we have to keep coverage sometimes for 5, 6, 7 seconds against Dante.
2nd down and inches, play action. And they sling it to Jermaine Wiggins. Wiggins is down inside the 35. And Dante Culpepper having no problem so far picking apart this Green Bay defense.
Yeah, and Wiggins, and you talk to the Vikings and you ask him about Jermaine Wiggins. He says he's a much better receiver than we anticipated. Not as good a blocker, but he is the leading receiver for this football team. Does a great job of finding the zones and the holes in those areas. He's been a great asset for this football team all year.
1st down from Minnesota. From the Green Bay 33, they hand to Bennett. Michael Bennett, huge run, another 1st down as he's brought down at the 20. He gets 14.
You know, one of the things that the Vikings have lacked is when Jim Kleinsasser went down, they've not been able to work on their perimeter running game. They start to the outside here, but then that's taken away. And as you see, Michael Bennett then plants his outside foot, gets going up north and south, does a great job of getting as much as he could out of that running play.
1st down from the 20. Culpepper off his back foot, flips it up for Moss. Randy Moss makes the adjustment for the touchdown.
And Chris, I think Randy Moss might have gotten away with a shove.
I'll tell you one thing, Randy Moss called for that football earlier than I've ever seen a wide receiver call for the ball. About 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, he sees he has Al Harris one-on-one. He sticks his hand in the air and he says, Dante, don't even bother looking anywhere else. Throw me the football and just let me make a play. And Randy Moss atones for Mike Tyson Company.
Anderson makes it 14-0. Take another look at the end of the play. Moss went up to get it. Harris didn't adjust, and it's 14-0 Minnesota. Randy Moss is celebrating the touchdown. He's let the throw go. And a lot of the Vikings players have done that in a show of solidarity, that team coming together during the week. Al Harris and his dreadlocks couldn't hang with Randy Moss. And that throw packed in under the helmet, and Randy Moss doing what he does best. Culpepper flipped it up for him. Moss made the adjustment, made the grab, and it's 14-0. This is Davenport. Good return. Najee Davenport all the way across the 40, knocked down at the 42.
Well, you go back and you take a look. Look at Al Harris here. He's playing off, and he told us yesterday he does not like playing Randy Moss off because then he's reacting. The question becomes, did Randy Moss push off? It looked like he might have live, but when you take a closer look at it, Randy Moss did not push off. There's a little bit of an underthrown ball. He came back and made the play. Al Harris was unable to.
Right here, 71.
Chris, would you still have benched him for the first couple of series?
I would not have let him start the game. Absolutely not, Joe.
It's first down and a handoff to Amon Green. He has a lane to run, and he has a Green Bay first down. The Green Bay Packers need an answer right now.
Well, if you followed the Minnesota Vikings at all this season, you know a 14-point lead really means not much at all to the Green Bay Packers offense. This is one of the best offenses in the NFL, and they have had their way with this Vikings defense in the prior two matchups.
That'll cost Green Bay 5 yards. Looked like Clifton was a little early.
Before the snap, false start, number 76, offense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
You know, we come into this game talking about these defenses and how they can't reinvent themselves, and certainly the Packers aren't going to going into the 17th game of the season, but yet you go back to that last game that they played on Christmas Eve. They gave up a lot of big plays in that game, and that's the one thing they did not want to do in this one, and yet here in the first quarter, they've already given up several.
On first and 15, Barnes slings it, it's intercepted. That's Winfield. Antoine Winfield on the interception, and Brett Favre, who has struggled in the playoffs, his last 4 chances, throws an interception right into the gut of Antoine Winfield. Vikings get it back.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Chrysler. Inspiration comes standard. By the new Singular, raising the bar. By Vytorin. And by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Antoine Winfield at the end of the regular season was bothered by a high left ankle sprain. Getting healthier every week, and he was waiting for that interception from Brett Favre. And it's Dante Culpepper back to work, up 14-0, and Michael Bennett out of the backfield. Another missed tackle. This time it's Al Harris, and Bennett gets 9. We go back to the interception.
Well, Brian Russell is going to be in man coverage on the tight end and going to follow him into the flat and basically disrupt Donald Driver's route. He hesitates coming in on the slant, so the ball ends up landing right in the lap of Antoine Winfield.
Driver made a tackle, but the defensive backs for the Packers aren't doing anything. Second down and 1. Play action. Culpepper with KGB chasing him. Gets a block. KGB still chasing him. And Dante Culpepper is marked out of bounds at the 25. Great block by Burleson along the way.
Well, it really was, Joe, and it looked like it was a design run all the way because Burleson never was looking to go out on a route. He started blocking Ahmad Carroll right from the start of the play to allow Dante Culpepper to get out on the edge.
And KGB has to play this bootleg. There's no way that he can try and slide down the line of scrimmage. Dante Culpepper is a much bigger running threat on the bootleg than any running back the Vikings have.
first down. They hand to Bennett for the first time today. The Green Bay defense makes a play, a loss of 2. Let's go down to Chris Myers.
Hey, Joe, Randy Moss not only doing it on the field, when he's over on the bench, he's been cheering up the defense, rooting for the offense. Now, he said he would make it up to his coach Mike Tice today in this game, and owner Red McComb said before the game, he told me, look, if the guys in the locker room are okay with Randy Moss, he's okay with me.
All right, Chris, thanks. Second down and 12. Moss and Harris, they'll be hooked up all day. Culpepper going that direction. Moss can't make the play, and Harris got his left hand in there. Third down and 12.
Well, Dante Culpepper saw the one-on-one matchup. He knew he was going there from the time he got the ball in his hands. He gives him a shot. He holds the safety. And if he gets that ball out just a little bit further, Randy Moss is able to come down with that one for a touchdown.
You know, Troy, though, Darren Sharper has to be able to get there on the cover, too. He's had the problems with injuries this season. But if he can't get over the top on that cover, too, Al Harris is going to have a long day.
First incompletion from Culpepper this afternoon, third down and 12. Culpepper with all day. Fires to Wiggins, and Jermaine Wiggins is brought down short of the first down by 2 yards. It'll be fourth down. Tonight, as the world becomes more dangerous, there's only one man we can trust. Jack's back in the most critically acclaimed series on television. 24. The two-night premiere event begins tonight, right after this game here on Fox.
I know it's on Fox, but the best show on television, I'll tell you.
Be careful about watching it. You'll never miss an episode after that.
Anderson drills it. Is it long enough? It is. Just got over the crossbar, and just like that, it's 17-0. And Mike Tice, it looked like he was fighting back a smile. The Vikings, losers of 7 of their last 10 coming into the playoffs, are up 17-0. Culpepper celebrates the 35-yarder by Morton Anderson. You look at the total yards, 171-6. Time of possession, there's still 6 minutes left in the first quarter. And it's 17-0, Vikings on top. Home field advantage isn't what it used to be for the Green Bay Packers during the regular season. Just 4-4. They lost the home playoff game 2 years ago, the wild card round of the Atlanta Falcons, and Brett Favre, we'll talk about it more, has really struggled his last 4 games in the playoffs. Davenport should end up with a good return again as he runs into a wall and keeps going. Decent field position for the Green Bay Packers out to their own 38. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, by contrast to what Chris Myers was talking about, the Packers, they came out shell-shocked. They still look shell-shocked. This was absolutely what Mike Sherman feared, that Minnesota would come out hot given all the controversy they've been through. I'm sure what he wasn't counting on was how his team would help Minnesota with turnovers and missed opportunities. Back to you.
All right, Pam. The first 15 playoff games that Favre participated in for Green Bay, he was 10-5, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. The last 4, he's 1-3, 6 touchdowns, 10 picks. This is Henderson, the All-Pro. He hauls it in, gets it out to the 44.5, a gain of 7.
And I'll tell you what, Joe, coming into this game, the Packers coaches and the players themselves, they knew that they were going up against a wounded football team and a team that was entering the playoff not real confident in where they were as a ball club. They did not want to allow Minnesota to get off to a fast start. Wanted to give them every reason to just quit, but that's exactly what's happening. They're going to make big plays.
And now losing the handle on the football is Amon Green. It looked like Green was able to get back on top of it, and he did. And there's another fumble by Amon Green, and that's the one thing that Amon Green has never been able to get rid of, the label of being a fumbler.
You know, the fact that the Minnesota Vikings have come out here and put 17 points on the board is not shocking. The fact that the Green Bay Packers offense has been fumbling around and playing the way that they have in the first quarter, well, you just could not have anticipated that.
Third down and 2. They hand off. First down, Green Bay. Ahman Green got 4. Well, there are a lot of things hanging out there in the balance during this game. You think about Minnesota. Terry Bradshaw saying during our pregame show that if the Minnesota Vikings came in here and laid an egg, Mike Tice is still in line potentially to be let go. He had his $1 million option picked up for next year. That had to be picked up by the 1st of January. The Colts had no choice. Favre fires. Javon Walker. Nice move. Walker down to the 31. And for Green Bay, guys, Mike Sherman made the decision to get rid of Ed Donatel after last year's playoff loss, and that defense has regressed.
You take a look at Javon Walker running the comeback route, does a good job of pushing Antoine Winfield off of him, and that's really what Javon Walker does best. He runs the outside routes, the outside breaking routes, as well as anyone.
Tossed to Davenport. Najee Davenport pushes the pile to the 26, a gain of 4.
And the one thing that Brett Favre told us last night was that you look at the game we played the last time against the Minnesota Vikings, and up front, our guys got whipped. This defensive line from the Minnesota Vikings beat our guys up front, and today we have to try and reestablish with our offensive line.
One guy to pay attention to is Kevin Williams. Only his second year, number 93, is getting the reputation of being the best defensive tackle in the game. Favre, Walker, incomplete. Javon Walker trying to adjust to it. It'll bring up 3rd down and 5.
And Brian Williams, the defensive back, was in coverage there. Really a nice job. Man-to-man coverage. He's got Walker. And Brett tries throwing it up high enough. Walker had it, but Brian Williams is able to knock it out of his hands right there at the last minute. And the way that ball went up, Packers were fortunate it wasn't intercepted.
Russell was back there deep, had a shot at it. Fisher in the backfield on 3rd and 5. Blitz. Packers pick it up, and that is incomplete. Now batted around and intercepted. And now fumbled. Now they're going to say incomplete. Official comes in at the end saying incomplete, even though Offord had it rolling around on his chest. Grabbed it for a moment. The call on the field right now is incomplete. It looked like an interception and a fumble, but they're going to say incomplete.
And if Javon Walker has a weakness, it's right here. It's on these in-cutting routes, and you could see that he was clearly intimidated. Offord trying to get the ball, and he does have it and takes a step with it. And the interesting thing is that would have been a Packers 1st down with where Rivera recovered the ball.
It would have been a new possession. It would have been a 1st down had they determined that Offord controlled it before he suffered the hit by Fisher and then lost it. But right now, the call on the field is incomplete pass.
But I don't know that you can challenge that, because if the official said that he blew it dead, it wouldn't have mattered that Marco Rivera recovered the football. So if he calls incomplete pass when the ball goes to the ground, there's nothing that the Packers could have done anyway.
And Mike Sherman is getting that explanation right now.
The ruling on the field was that the pass was incomplete because the receiver never maintained full control of the football, and that is not being challenged by Green Bay. It is 4th down.
It's not being challenged because it can't be challenged, and it's 4th down now. Green Bay has the football, and they bring their field goal unit on to the field, and it will be roughly a 43-yard try by Longwell, who, kicking down toward this end of the field during pregame warmups, was hitting from this distance easily.
Boy, it's not often that a dropped interception is a good play for the defense.
Postseason career not good from this distance. 43-yard try. Longwell hits it, and the Packers are on the board. But again, here's the play. Off the hands of Walker. Eventually into the arms, but not long enough. With Willie Offord, no fumble, incomplete, field goal at 17-3. 17-3 now, the Vikings on top. And Troy, I was talking earlier about this Green Bay defense, the decision made by Mike Sherman, who's the head coach, and the GM. They got rid of Ed Donatel after last year's playoff loss, the heartbreaker at Philadelphia. Everybody talking about 4th and 26. Donatel's now in Atlanta, and Bob Slowick in this Green Bay defense is worse than it was a year ago.
Well, it certainly is, yeah. And during those 4 years that Ed Donatel was the defensive coordinator, they averaged 36 takeaways a season.
This year they were last in the league as Ontario Smith stutter steps and gets it out to the 26. Well, we all can't wait for February 6th. That will be Super Bowl 39. And don't miss Paul McCartney in the AmeriQuest Mortgage Super Bowl 39 halftime show. Sunday, February 6th. It's only on Fox.
I hope he does another duet with Terry Bradshaw. That was just about my favorite moment of the last Fox Super Bowl. Absolutely. Terry's going to work on the words a little bit between now and then, though.
2 minutes, 37 seconds left, first quarter. Bennett. Green Bay defense steps up, stands up, and a gain of only 1.
It's like Grady Jackson is coming out here to play today. He has not been able to practice very much at all. His knee, people tell me it's almost a miracle that he's out there playing. All he does is show up on Sunday, and when he explodes through the offensive line, he does it like no other.
A dislocated left kneecap. Suffered in that opening win over Carolina. Second down and 9. Culpepper out of the backfield. Bennett, and wrapping up and making the tackle is Harris. Out to the 30, a gain of only 3, and that's something that the Packers have been working on in practice. He said, don't worry, Harris did. We've been working on trying to get back to the basics and relearn how to tackle. They've missed some. This one wasn't missed.
Well, he does a good job here bringing down Michael Bennett. And you look at what the Packers have done in this game. They've mixed up coverage very well. They played a lot of cover 2 the last game, did a good job with it. They sprinkled in enough of it here today to keep the Vikings a little bit off balance, at least on this drive.
Third down and 6. Sack, Hawthorne.
The pressure package that Green Bay had, and they used a lot of earlier in the season, and the defensive players would like to see more of it. They bring Hawthorne off the edge. Dante Culpepper does not recognize the blitz, thinks he's got it picked up, and gets sacked.
And Darren Sharper got away with a hold on the outside. That's where Culpepper was trying to go. Sharper just grabbed his man.
Bennett. Chapman with a fair catch. And good field position for Green Bay. The ball out at their own 43 after a 36-yard punt.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at what the Green Bay Packer defense just did, considering the fact that the Vikings had gone down the field and scored on their first 3 possessions to get up 17 points, that now it's 17-3 to make a stop like they did and give the ball back to the Packers with good field position. Nice sequence of plays there by the Packers defensively.
They just had to survive. I mean, when you get a hit with a 17-0 start to a ball game, that field goal is a good start. Now they need to keep it going.
Toss to Green. Amon Green gets it out just shy of midfield. And if the Packers choose to let the first quarter and the clock run out, they can.
Well, that is the one place that the Packers have always had success attacking this Minnesota front. It's the toss to the outside. There was a game last year. They gained over 200 yards rushing, tossing left, tossing right. Comes out on first down, a good look.
Second down and 3. The final play of the quarter. Davenport hits the hole hard, has a first down. And the Packers will be at the Minnesota 45 at the start of the second quarter. 17-3, Vikings after 1. Fast start for the Minnesota Vikings in this one. They went up 17-0. It's 17-3, and Green Bay has a first down at the Minnesota 45. So you know, for the Packers, postseason history, their biggest comeback, 10 points. Those two games were tied at the end of a quarter, just so you know. Favre out of the backfield, Henderson. Room to run. First down, William Henderson inside the 30 to the 28.
That time the Packers are trying to get something down the field. They run two verticals towards the post, and because the linebackers then are turning and running, trying to get under them, it opens things up for William Henderson to come underneath all of that, get the ball. He got lost in all the traffic and makes a big gain.
And E.J. Henderson, again, the culprit in pass defense. He is somebody the Packers will take full advantage of here today.
Handoff is to Green, and Amon Green to the 25. Guys, I know that this has been a record-setting year for the combination of Javon Walker and Donald Driver. And the Minnesota secondary isn't that good, and they missed Chavis and all of that. With the Green Bay Packers, if they choose to do it, with that good offensive line, can line up and cram it down your throat. And I would be surprised if they didn't do that trying to get back into this game.
Well, if they need to do it, they can certainly do it with those guys. And I've said before that they can play any type of run game you want. If you want to run the trap game, they have the athleticism to do that. If you want to run the power game, they can certainly come off the ball and move people.
On second down and 7, Favre, a quick throw, the pass complete to Driver. And Donald Driver has enough for a first down.
And they're not too bad doing that either, you know, putting the ball in Brett Favre's hands. But it was interesting talking with Mike Sherman yesterday. He said, even though our passing game is going great, we still have to run the football because the best thing we do is play action.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they've thrown the ball so much more this year than what they had a year ago. And you're right, so much of it is predicated by being able to run the football. But ultimately, their points have come by throwing the ball.
Toss to Amon Green, running right. Nice gain on first down. Green is down inside the 15, picked up 5.
You know, that time they come in with the U71 package and Kevin Berry on the outside, and it's a predominantly run offensive formation, obviously, because of the size that's involved. And I've been impressed so far early in this game with Amon Green and the way that he's running the ball. He's had a tough season, trying to stay healthy. He's played through injuries all year long, and yet right now even playing with fractured ribs, but playing and running hard the last few times he's gotten the ball.
Second down and 5 with Fisher in the backfield. Favre fires, pass caught, Walker. Javon Walker with another Green Bay first down.
And it's the one thing.
And a flag down, Chris, at the end of the play. Walker gets up Gimpy, and they threw a flag right at the end of the play.
Over. Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 27, defense. Late hit, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Russell.
Well, the bigger news, because that's only about a 3-yard penalty, but Javon Walker is still hopping around on the field, and he has definitely been the biggest threat the Green Bay Packers have had from the wide receiver corps this season, and you can tell he's still very uncomfortable.
The ball is placed at the 3. First down and goal for Green Bay, down 17-3. Davenport. Lucci blocking for him. Davenport.
Unbelievable.
The football. And ending up with the ball is Bubba Franks, and they're going to mark Franks back outside the 5 at about the 7.
Joe, it was unbelievable. The ball bounced right out of the running back's hands, right into Bubba Franks' hand. It's almost like a lateral as you watch him going down the field. Davenport's going to get hit. This thing's going to flip out, and Bubba Franks is going to catch it in midair. It's like it was a play of some kind.
Well, that's 2 fumbles now by Green Bay, one by Davenport and one by Amon Green that they've been able to recover.
Second and goal from the 6. What a break that was for Green Bay. Handoff down inside the 5 is Amon Green, a gain of 2. And we go back to that hit on Javon Walker. There's the...
I don't think it was the hit that caused the injury, though. It just looks like his leg got caught in that turf. And one of the things, these guys are all wearing longer cleats today because of the condition of the field. And you just wonder if he got his foot planted and somehow twisted his knee or ankle.
Third and goal from the 4. Packers, touchdown! Bubba Franks.
You know, you watch Bubba Franks. This is his third touchdown in as many games. Check out the defensive players for the Vikings and how deep they are into the end zone. There's no excuse for backpedaling 4 and 5 yards deep into the end zone when Bubba Franks, all he has to do is turn around for the touchdown.
Well, that's the first time that they've taken advantage of the fact that Corey Chavis is out and Willie Alford is in. They're going to go to work on him.
34th career postseason touchdown pass from Brett Favre, a January fastball from Favre, and it's a 7-point game.
This NFC wildcard game is brought to you by Ford. The next Ford Super Duty. Tougher, stronger, smarter. By Visa. Proud sponsor of the NFL. Get ready for the game. By Drive Insurance from Progressive. Available only through an independent agent. Relax, just drive. And by Miller. There's good enough and there's better than it has to be. Miller, good call.
It was Bubba Franks waiting for that Brett Favre January fastball in the end zone. The 4-yard touchdown throw from Brett Favre. It was 4 for 4 on the drive for 35 yards. And officially back in the game are the Green Bay Packers at 17-10. It's Mewelde Moore on the return. Out to the 34. The ball comes out. And now the pileup.
Yeah, it looked like Minnesota was able to jump back on it. A lot of balls coming loose here in this first half.
Well, if that's, I think that's Brian Williams, number 29. What a great hustle play he made. Ball's going to come out. That is a fumble. And Brian Williams is just going to dive on top of it. Great play by him.
So Williams saves that. They were looking at Javon Walker moments ago while the Packers were scoring. He is in agony and may be finished for the day. Sloppy day in Green Bay. We're in the second quarter. 10-16 left in the first half. 10 unanswered points put up by Green Bay and penalty flags. Prior to the snap, you just couldn't hear the whistle. It's a false start on Minnesota to back them up 5 yards.
Before the ball was snapped, false start, number 84, offense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
They get Randy Moss. 27 degrees at the start of the day. Wind chill of 19 degrees. There's a mist falling. If Green Bay wins, they play at Atlanta on Saturday night with St. Louis and Philadelphia. If Minnesota wins, they're at Philadelphia Sunday with St. Louis at Atlanta on Saturday night. Quick throw, Burleson. Another missed tackle. Nate Burleson down the sideline. Forced out of bounds. It was Hawthorne who missed the tackle, and Burleson gets 28.
And I don't know what happened to Ahmad Carroll, but he came running off the field, and Michael Hawthorne, a safety, came running on the field. They saw the matchup on the outside with Burleson and just simply raised up and hit him. Well, Hawthorne was off of about 10-15 yards on the play, Troy.
Yeah, and so far, the Green Bay Packers have not played a lot of their cover two. And if you're going to play one-on-one outside, you have to tackle. Going back to the last game, one of the main reasons they went to the cover two was because they were missing so many tackles.
Movement on the right side of the offensive line. Goldberg, the right tackle. See if it's against Green Bay.
Neutral zone infraction. Number 98, defense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
It was Kenny Peterson who was across from Goldberg, who came across early and forced Goldberg to move. And Najee Davenport, who's been playing with broken ribs, playing with a dislocated shoulder, is being taken off the field for a further look inside the Green Bay locker room. Bennett in the backfield here on 1st and 5. Culpepper can't find anyone. Now throws it, and it's nearly picked off. Dangerous throw. Navies and Roman were there with a pass intended for Sean Burton. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, Javon Walker is still in pain from that injury. He remains on the sideline. Trainers have applied ice to the area of the front part of his leg. The Packers say that the receiver is suffering from a shin injury. He's also questionable. Meanwhile, you probably saw now Jay Davenport headed into the locker room. He's going to get x-rays on his shoulder.
All right, Pam, thanks. 2nd down and 5. Culpepper slipped a bit as he got rid of it, and it's off Randy Moss, incomplete. 3rd down and 5, and right now Minnesota would be outside field goal range for Morton Anderson.
Well, so much of what the Packers want to try to do defensively is really dependent on how well they cover on the outside. They're not able to bring the pressure they'd like to if they can't cover, and they certainly can't play one-on-one if they don't make tackles.
3rd down and 5.
There's pressure.
Blitz. Culpepper steps up and runs for the 1st down. Dante Culpepper is going to be brought down just inside the 10 by Arkell Truelock.
And that's the thing you really got to guard against. If you're going to play man coverage against Dante Culpepper, you have got to contain him in the pocket, because once he gets outside, there's nobody accounting for him. And so as you can see, the defenders are running with the receivers. Dante Culpepper breaks contain, and he's able to pick up a huge gain.
It's what's just unfair about playing Dante Culpepper. They had the blitz call, they got pressure, he escaped Hannibal Davies, and comes up with yet another big play.
1st and goal from the 9. They hand off Smith. Ontario Smith ran into a wall and picked up 1.
Well, the one thing about the Minnesota Vikings this season, if you take Dante Culpepper's rushing yards out of the equation, just their running backs, one of the worst rushing teams in the National Football League. There's only a couple of teams that have done poorer this season. So much of the running stats are a bit skewed because of all that Dante Culpepper has done.
Today, Culpepper has rushed for 50. The rest of the team only 14 yards. Troy circles a matchup of Moss and Harris. 2nd and goal. Culpepper looks that way. Incomplete.
You know, that time Al Harris played it really well. He had inside help with a safety in case Moss went to the inside. You can see Sharper working his way. But Al Harris does a good job of staying over the top and not really giving anywhere for Dante to throw that football. Of course, Al, he never even saw the ball thrown.
3rd down and goal. Culpepper flushed out again, throws. Mo Williams, penalty flag comes in. They're calling it a catch and that Mo Williams was down, but there is a flag down on the field, actually 2. And there's also a Minnesota Vikings player down inside the 5-yard line. That's Mo Williams, who caught it, then lost it, but they were ruling him down, no fumble. But again, flags are down on the field. I wonder if somebody got downfield too far along the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. Imagine the penalty will be declined to bring up 4th down. Let's go back to the injury and see why Mo Williams is in pain.
Apparently KGB is just going to come down on top of the ankle. Yeah, you can see it right underneath there. And Mo Williams obviously in a lot of pain, but couldn't really tell about the football and when that came.
Ineligible downfield. number 78, offense. The penalty has declined. It's 4th down.
So 4th down, and the Minnesota Vikings offense is still on the field. Now at the last moment, the Vikings change up and bring Morton Anderson onto the field.
You know, Mike Tice told us last night, he said, hey, we're going to play wide open and loose, but that would be awfully loose if they were going to be going for it there.
22-yard try here from Anderson. And penalty flags before the snap. This could make it a 27-yard try for Anderson.
False start, number 71, offense. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
That's David Dixon.
Well, they've gotten that whole right side of the offensive line now with a penalty here in the first half.
27-yard attempt from Morton Anderson. Good snap, and slipping and falling is Anderson. With 7:25 remaining in the half. After this, the Packers have the football, trailing by 7.
Today's game on Fox is brought to you by UPS. What can Brown do for you?
It's a 17-10 Minnesota lead, and there's the spot, the exact spot where Morton Anderson slipped and fell as he tried to hit that 27-yarder. In case you're wondering why the ball is spotted just inside the 12, it was ruled a block and a recovery. The officials are still talking about it with 7:25 remaining in this first half.
You know, Joe, those kickers are so squirrely sometimes about the shoes that they wear, and you could just see that Morton Anderson had on spikes that looked like they were about a 1/4 of an inch long, and those simply are not going to work out here today.
44-year-old Morton Anderson, who's been in the league for 23 years.
Number 71 is reporting as eligible. Number 71 is eligible.
Mike Sherman is getting the explanation as to why the ball is not back out at the 20. Again, a block and a recovery, so starting from just inside their own 12 are the Packers down 7. Extra offensive lineman Kevin Berry. Favre is going to air it out down the middle. Walker wasn't looking for it. Russell was. Another interception by Favre, and it's into the arms of Russell with Walker back in the game. Walker was going a different direction, and Favre threw it to Russell for the interception, his second of the day.
And that's all on Walker. Javon Walker started to flatten his route out as Brett Favre was beginning to unload it, and at the last minute, he ran a vertical route, and that's why they got the interception. Take a look at Brett Favre coming out, and right now he sees Walker flattening the route, and then he takes it up high. And that's why Russell was able to come underneath and get the interception.
So 2 picks thrown by Favre, and they hand to Bennett. Michael Bennett gets it down inside the 20. And he's very close to a first down from Minnesota. Let's go down to Chris Myers.
Well, Joe, prior to the game, Morton Anderson and his head coach surveyed the field. Morton described the field as painted dirt, but wasn't comfortable with wearing the extended cleats. Most of the players are wearing 3/4 inch cleats. That's 1/8 of an inch more. Also, an update from the Viking bench. Mo Williams, a sprained right ankle. He is questionable as far as his return goes, Joe.
All right, thanks, Chris. Second down and a short 1. Culpepper flings it. Burleson for the touchdown for the Vikings.
Boy, and the beat goes on the outside for Ahmad Carroll, who's had a nightmarish season this rookie year.
Well, it goes back for this Green Bay defense starting the year with a pretty good combination at cornerback between Al Harris and Mike McKenzie.
Well, Maude Carroll is just so shell-shocked right now. He's been penalized so many times for getting his hands on the receivers and giving up penalties for illegal contact that he just is afraid and intimidated out there right now.
Well, the Green Bay Packers weren't willing to give in to McKenzie's demand for more money. He was traded to New Orleans. Carroll getting a chance to play. Burleson right now happy about that. Nate Burleson, who has really made a name for himself this season. 1,000-yard year, 68 catches during the regular season. As the 19-yard touchdown catch from Dante Culpepper. And Culpepper this year against the Packers, 10 touchdown throws, no interceptions. And it's 24-10 Minnesota. From inside the 5, it's Andre Thurman with Najee Davenport injured. And a penalty flag comes in as Thurman gets it out to the 24-yard line, and this should cost Green Bay some yards. A 21-yard return by Thurman.
Illegal block in the back. Number 22, return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
So we go back and we take a look at that interception. Watch Javon Walker as he's coming across the field and what Brett Favre is going to see. Javon Walker starts across. That's what Brett Favre sees. And then he takes this vertical path. And that's what allows Brian Russell then to keep coming and go after the ball. And Brett Favre knew it. And you see him, he's telling him, you showed me you were going to go flat.
A 14-point game starting from their own 10. Amon Green cuts it upfield, crosses the 15, knocked down to the 17, got 7. We look ahead to next week. The Packers or the Rams at the Falcons, the Rams or the Vikings at the Eagles. The matchups will be determined with what happens here this afternoon and evening. Saturday at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. And next Sunday at 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, beginning with America's #1 pregame show. That's presented in Fox Sports High Definition. Amon Green got nothing. If we look back on what has transpired in this first half, we've seen plenty. Great start for the Vikings, including right out of the gate the 68-yard catch and run by Mo Williams. Moss got one. Bubba Franks, the first touchdown and so far only touchdown for Green Bay. And the latest score, Nate Burleson, 19 yards from Dante Culpepper. Packers now faced with 3rd and 3. With time, fires it, and the pass incomplete. And now a late hit, I believe, on Johnstone. And this could end up giving Green Bay a first down. I think Johnstone will say, I thought he caught the ball.
And Brett Favre needs to be careful. He's in there throwing a few punches against Willie Alford, and the last thing in the world you can have happen now is to get Brett Favre thrown out of the game.
So let's take a look at this play. The ball was ruled an incompletion, and then as Franks gets up, he gets that hit from Johnstone, but I think Johnstone thought the play was still going.
Absolutely he did.
But that doesn't mean that there's not a penalty on the play.
Ruling on the field, the pass was incomplete. After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 51 defense. That's a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And if you've ever played in a playoff game, you know there is absolutely no way that you heard a whistle blow. It just doesn't happen out there on the field. And how many times we saw it last year in the playoffs between the Colts and the Broncos, where a guy was tackled and got up and ran in for a touchdown, Marvin Harrison on that play, and I'm sure he was thinking, nobody's touched him, I have to go and make a tackle, and he never heard the whistle.
You can see Tice over there getting in the ear and in the face of Johnstone. It wasn't a cheap, late, dirty hit by Johnstone. He was just trying to make a tackle. Toss to Fisher on first down, running left. Fisher gets the edge. And he's out of bounds near midfield. They'll mark him at the Minnesota 49. And a flag is down inside the Green Bay 40. And this one may be coming back.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. It looked like there might have been a hold on the outside, which allowed him to get on the edge.
Holding, number 22, offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Still first down.
That's Nick Lucci, the fullback. You're going to see he's coming up on Claiborne to block him. He's got a hold of the jersey there. And that's what the officials saw. Good call by the officials. And that's what sprung Fisher on the edge.
The sad thing is he really had the block. He didn't have to hold him. All you have to do is get the position, which he had. But it's just so tempting to reach out there and try and secure that block.
71 right here. They mark off 71. The 10 yards from the spot of the foul. So it's 1st and 16. Kevin Perry, the extra tackle in there. Out of the backfield, it's Henderson. And Brian Russell makes a good play coming up. A sure tackle from the free safety. Gain of only 4.
Yeah, I think in talking with Mike Tice yesterday, and he was discussing his defense, and obviously a much maligned group all season long, but he had really felt that the last couple of weeks this defense has played pretty decent football, and it was the offense that was going to have to stop making some of the mistakes that were killing drives and keeping them from scoring points. So far here today, this defense for the Minnesota Vikings has stepped up to the challenge and has played well.
2nd down and 13. Far down the middle of the field, it's Franks. Bubba Franks inside the 45. And if there's one thing we know about Brett Favre, 2 interceptions or not, he's going to keep throwing it. He's going to keep going downfield, and this time good for 29 yards to Franks.
And the one spot that I think he's going to attack more and more is against Willie Alford, the safety who took over for Corey Chavis because of the injury there. Alford is really not much of a cover guy. He's a guy who's pretty good coming down, playing 8 in the box, playing the run, but when you get him in the open field, he's a liability.
On 1st down, Favre gonna run and slides down at the 39-yard line, a gain of 4.
Kinda.
Well, he's stomped.
He doesn't run like he used to, but he's still a pretty elusive quarterback back there in the pocket, and a guy who's difficult to bring down. And he knew right away he had nowhere to go with the football, and fakes the throw, opens up a little bit of a lane, and gets as much as he can, and as a good veteran will, get on the ground.
2nd down and 6. Ahman Green over the right side. Ahman Green is flipped and brought down just short of a 1st down.
It is really fun to watch this Green Bay offensive line pull and make blocks. Mike Wall, a former wide receiver, pulling across that time and really clearing a path. You really see all these offensive linemen, even the tackles, with their ability to get out and pull and make plays in the open field. And back when they had Mike Flanagan at the center, they were probably as athletic as any offensive line in the game.
The Green Bay Packers have 2 downs to get about half a yard. It's 3rd down and 1. This would be 4-down territory. Doesn't matter as Ahman Green is down to the 29 with a 1st down, and that may carry us to the 2-minute warning.
And I think Ahman Green is just so good at being able to find a crease in a defense, and he's very patient when he runs with the football, finds the crack, and is able to get what he can.
Everybody catch your breath. 2 minutes left in this first half in Lambeau. Brett Favre in his Hall of Fame NFL career has never brought his team back from a deficit of more than 14 points. It was 17-0 Minnesota in this game before you could blink. And with 2 minutes left in this first half, the end of Wild Card Weekend, it's 24-10, Green Bay with a 1st down inside the Minnesota 30. A cold, sloppy day here at Lambeau. And Favre checks it down to Fisher, incomplete. 2nd and 10. Coming up on the Visa halftime report, JB, Terry, Howie, and Jimmy will have scores and highlights and a preview of the 24 season premiere, which we have had a chance to preview.
That's a good part. It's a good part of our job, isn't it? We get it a little before everybody else. Well, I really think for the Green Bay Packers, they have to score a touchdown here. Field goals don't help because the way their defense plays, they've got to try and match points now with the Vikings.
Minute 56 left in the half. They hand to Green. And Ahman Green is inches inside the 25. It'll bring up 3rd and about 5 for the Packers.
And third down is an area where the Packers have been good all season long. Second in the National Football League at the end of regulation. 47% is their conversion rate. This is a big one here.
In a place where the Minnesota Vikings have not been very good.
Third down and a short 6, a long 5. So you know it would be about a 43-yard field goal try from this spot. Barr sprints to his left, fires, and there's a lot of contact and a penalty flag. Driver was interfered with. Winfield pleading his case, but this one is against Minnesota, and that'll give Green Bay a much-needed first down.
Boy, the Packers really catch a break there. Antoine Winfield all over this route. He's returning from the injury. By far their best cover corner. Breaks on the ball. And really just Donald Driver, he was anticipating the Driver was going to come back for the ball, which he really didn't do. So Winfield went through him.
Yeah, Driver didn't go down, didn't go back to the ball at the rate that Antoine Winfield was. And as you saw, there was contact prior to the ball getting there. Unfortunate play for Antoine Winfield.
Pretty smart play by Driver to sort of hold his position and force him to come through him to get to the ball.
That is 2 third-down penalties on this drive that have given Green Bay new life. And Ahman Green gets it to the 10. You remember the late hit on the 15-yard penalty on Johnstone, which has led to this. Second down for Green Bay from the 10-yard line of the Vikings. They need to get it inside the 2 to get a fresh set of downs. They really need to get it into the end zone before the end of the half with 50 seconds and counting remaining here in Lambeau. 14-point Viking lead. Second down and 8. And they flip it to Ahman Green. Can't get to the edge, and what a good play by Winfield. Antoine Winfield, who is Mike Tice's favorite on this defense, says he has a nose and a desire to get to the football, and he did there.
Well, he led the team in tackles prior to getting hurt and missing some time because of the injury. And, you know, yeah, not a real big guy, but he is not afraid to come up and put a hit on a running back. And you don't see that a lot these days with defensive backs.
Troy, how much have they missed Antoine Winfield over the past couple of weeks with that injury? This guy had really become, I think, the best player on their defense. Kevin Williams, you can certainly make an argument for him as well. But one of the smallest guys on the field, but just so tenacious to the football. Next time you guys are out there voting for the Pro Bowl, keep this guy in mind, because when you watch him on film, he really sticks out.
Yeah, and because he plays corner, you think that the reason that they miss him the most is because he's not out there covering wide receivers. And yes, that is a factor in it, but as we just saw, they also miss him because he has the ability to come up and make plays on the corner and squeeze things back inside.
Green Bay just used their first timeout. 29 seconds left. A 4 wide receiver set for the Packers on 3rd and 6. With the pocket, now pulls it down. Buys some time. Gonna run. Looking for the corner.
Oh, my goodness.
And they're going to call Favre way across the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was across it by 4 yards.
Yeah, and your whole body's got to be across. No doubt on that one. He was 4 yards past. And he knew it. Now, had that have been an interception, it would have counted. It would have been an interception had Minnesota had come up with that ball, but
Walt Anderson
coming back.
Illegal forward pass. Number 4, offense. He was beyond the line of scrimmage when he threw the ball. That's a 5-yard penalty from the spot of the throw, and it's a loss of down. It's 4th down.
The loss of down is the big part of it. I mean, he is 4 yards past the line of scrimmage, but he had no chance of getting the ball running it into the end zone as his alley to the corner, the front right corner of the end zone, was shutting down in a hurry.
Do you think playoff football makes this guy uptight? I mean, are you kidding me?
The funniest part was Walt Anderson could barely make the call without laughing the referee.
It's a 28-yard attempt. Trying to make it an 11-point game. Longwell. The kick, no good. Wow. You can see the holder Barker spinning it, and Longwell off his foot hooks it, and it stays 24-10.
Well, just a remarkable change of momentum here for the Minnesota Vikings. Those laces were straight back, perfectly done by the holder, spinning it around, and just a skank job.
Well, and I tell you what, I mean, for a guy who's had 4 game-winning field goals this year and has been absolutely consistent week in and week out, miss it from there, that's unbelievable for Ryan Longwell.
He's a Pro Bowl alternate, and all Mike Sherman can do is hang his head in disbelief.
You just wonder if watching Morton Anderson slip out there, you get a little tentative with that plant foot.
That is one of the worst parts of this field with regard to footing. And that hook by Longwell, maybe even that 5-yard penalty on the part of Brett Favre, throwing it from across the line of scrimmage. It's still a 14-point game. We're at the half. Great half of football for the Vikings. Visa Halftime Show coming up after this from your local Fox station. We saw a lot packed into 30 minutes of football in the first half, and the end result is that 24-10, Minnesota on top. Start of the third quarter is right around the corner. The first half statistics: rushing yards about even, passing yards, total yards tilted in favor of the Minnesota Vikings, and the turnovers, that's same old story, same old thing you talk about every time you go into a playoff game or any game. You got to win that battle, and the Green Bay Packers turned it over twice on interceptions by Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's been the big difference up to this point in this ball game, has been the turnovers. And I think that if you look at what Minnesota has been able to do defensively, they've done a heck of a job. Even though they've given up some yards, they really have played well considering what's happened to them in previous games. And for what it's worth, Minnesota 6-1 in games when they've led at halftime.
Well, just remember this, though. We have 2 of the best offenses in football going against 2 of the worst defenses. So a 14-point margin is simply not enough in a game like this.
Minnesota Vikings have to hope that this game isn't like their season. A fast start and then a fizzle. They started this season 5-1, then fizzled to losing 7 out of 10 down the stretch. Lead by 14, and let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, Mike Sherman very clear about how the Packers need to get into this ball game. He said we can't keep going into the red zone, coming away with no points or simply field goals. He said defensively, we're letting Culpepper just stand back there in the pocket. We've got to get some pressure on him. He said finally his message to the team was this: we can do this, but it's going to take everybody. Back to you.
All right, Pam, it's 24-10, and starting from their own 20. Packers have it. We understand Javon Walker is not even out of the dressing room yet to start this second half. Toss to Ahman Green. He got 3 over the left side. Let's go down to Chris Myers.
Joe, Mike Tice told his team at halftime that's 30 minutes of the smartest football you've played the entire year. When I asked him about the second half, he said, I know that's Brett Favre over there. We're not going to run the clock out. I told you we'd be open and loose. We're going to continue to be aggressive, especially on offense.
That was the silver lining for Mike Tice and Minnesota. He said for some reason against Green Bay we seemed to play loose. And they were certainly tight down the stretch. The pass complete. Chapman. Antonio Chapman scoops it out to the 39. First down for Green Bay.
The play that's going to be talked about is the one right before the half with Brett Favre, and you just wonder if he puts his head down, even if he doesn't pick up the first down on this play, he probably would have been close enough for Mike Sherman to have gone for it on 4th down. He would have gotten very close to that first down, and they would have had time to keep the drive alive and still take a shot for a touchdown.
And who knows if the 5 yards at the very least that the Packers were penalized as a flag comes in on the handoff to Green, who gets 2. The 5 yards would have made a difference between a hook and getting something just inside the left upright. Check the marker. This appears to be against the Pack.
Holding, number 62, offense. 10-yard penalty, still first down.
Well, here comes Javon Walker out of the dressing room. had that shin contusion, still running with a limp, and obviously they came in shorthanded without Robert Ferguson, who 3 weeks ago took that vicious hit in the clothesline from Donovan Darius. And if the Packers live on to play next weekend, there's a chance that Ferguson could play.
Well, yeah, and with Javon Walker, as we see him come out onto the field, when they put the ice on his shin, I figured he was done for the day. There was no way he would be able to warm that up to get back out on the field. I'm sure he was able to do that there in the locker room at halftime.
First down and 18, the pass on a rope out to Driver, trying to make a move and cannot get around the sure tackling of Antoine Winfield. Gain of 8.
And I tell you what, you watch this Minnesota Viking defense, and we've done a lot of games of theirs this season, and in this game today, they seem to be flying around. Their linebackers are doing a much better job in the run game and making plays and playing at a level that, quite frankly, I've not seen from them all season long.
One other injury note, Najee Davenport still having his separated shoulder looked at. The only information we know about Davenport is Favre sprints left, sets up, and now throws back across the field. And there's Claiborne waiting for Fisher.
Chris Claiborne, who had the interception for a touchdown the last time these two teams got together, showed the kind of discipline that's really been lacking in the linebacker play and pass coverage from the Vikings all season. He never bit into this fake. Brett Favre set this up beautifully. You never would have imagined he's going back to the backside. Waits, makes the late throw, and Claiborne never bit on it.
Really disciplined on his assignments there, staying with him, and nice play, Claiborne.
Loss of 3 on that completion, third down and 13. Just got it away. Blitz coming. Dontarius Thomas, that's batted up and intercepted. Back the other way. Pass is picked off and down inside the 25. The Minnesota Vikings get their third interception of the day, and it's Ralph Brown.
And take a look at why it happened and the pressure that comes. You're going to see Fisher pick up 1, and then inside of that comes the linebacker, Dontarius Thomas, lays out Brett Favre. Brett doesn't even see the hit. And then on the back end, the ball coming up. See, Brian Williams on the back end of that gets a hand on the ball. It gets deflected, and Ralph Brown makes the interception.
You just wonder now with Javon Walker out of the game, that was a throw to Andre Thurman there, and as Brett made the throw, it was well behind Thurman. He tried to turn back, definitely not pass interference on the play as both guys were going for the ball.
So Ralph Brown gets the interception off the tip, and Dante Culpepper has to take a seat back outside the 30, a loss of 7.
I'll tell you what, you go back to the last game that they played 2 weeks ago there on Christmas Eve, and Brett Favre, who does not get hit a lot. We all know that they don't give up a lot of sacks, but he really doesn't even get hit that much. He got hit a lot in that Christmas Eve game, and he's been hit a lot here today, even though he's been able to get the ball out.
By the way, at the end of the interception, Chad Clifton came off the field limping badly, needed help to get off the field. So injury to insult at the end of that play for Green Bay. Blitz coming. Vikings pick it up. Pass is incomplete, looking for Moss, guarded by Al Harris.
Now, it's been a pretty good matchup all day long, Al Harris and Randy Moss. And as you're going to see Randy Moss come off the ball, he's going to expect it on the back shoulder because Al Harris is over the top of him. That's why Randy Moss slowed down just a little bit. That's not predetermined in the huddle as to whether they're going to throw it back shoulder or to the pylon. That time there was just a miscommunication between Dante and Randy Moss.
But Dante has to be willing to throw that ball with some elevation. That's the second time in the end zone we've seen him just throw it over his head.
Third down and 17. They're at the edge of field goal range right now. The pass is incomplete. Robinson, the intended receiver. And we'll see how the Vikings want to play it. You are pushing it with the left leg of Morton Anderson. If you try it from here, it would be a 48-yard try with this type footing. That would, by the way, tie his season long. I think the I think the decision that's being made here to punt it is the wise one by the Vikings.
Yeah, I do too. And give credit to the Green Bay Packer defense after the turnover, and for them to step up and not give up any points on this drive is huge.
Antonio Chapman waiting back at his 10. Bennett punting it for Minnesota. It checks up and rolls out of bounds at the 7.
Darren Bennett, one of the absolute best at putting that backspin on the punt, just made it die on the 5-yard line.
Good spin for the Vikes, who still lead by 14.
This telecast is copyrighted by the NFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or of any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the NFL's consent is prohibited.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of Super Bowl 39.
So the Green Bay Packers have the ball starting at their own 7, and they are without their outstanding left tackle, Chad Clifton. An ankle injury, and they hand it to Amon Green. And Green gets it back to the line of scrimmage. That's it. Chris Claiborne on the stop. And they were looking at Chad Clifton during the break. Serious pain down on the Packer bench. 2nd down and 10 for Green Bay.
Sure, it's causing Brett Favre a little pain as well, knowing his left tackle, his backside protector, is sitting over there on the bench.
On 2nd down, Favre going to put it up. Fires, and the pass complete to Donald Driver. And he's got a 1st down out of the 22. Antoine Winfield on the stop, a completion of 16 yards.
Really good job by Donald Driver, just coming off the ball and using his speed to create a little separation between him and Antoine Winfield. When you've got a corner that's off, you've got to keep driving him off with speed. Antoine Winfield felt that Donald Driver may try to run by him, and once Antoine Winfield got his shoulders and hips turned, he was beat.
On 1st down, Amon Green. And Green is out to the 24, got 2.
Nice play that time by Steve Martin, getting the penetration up the field. And Troy, I really think the story of this game so far has been the play of the front 7 of the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, they are shutting down the running game. Their linebackers are making plays in the passing game that they haven't made in the past. They're just playing an excellent game right now.
Well, they really are. They're good in the run defense, and the linebackers are a liability in space. And so a lot of times the Packers would like to try to get them having to cover, but so far they haven't isolated that.
On 2nd down and 8, Lucci out of the backfield. Gets it out to the 28, got 4. And to compensate for the loss of Chad Clifton, the Packers have moved Mike Wall out to left tackle. Gray Rugemer is now over at left guard. Scott Wells is in the center position. They use a lot of Kevin Berry as that extra tackle, and that's it for the offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I think the fact that Scott Wells started 2 games for Gray Rugemer when Rugemer was injured, I think that now pays dividends with this offensive line.
3rd down and 4. Time for Favre, who fires, and it's out of the reach of Driver. And Mike Tice, he's still got the hands.
You know, he wasn't known for his hands when he was playing, but he showed us a little something there. He was more of a blocking guy, a big, good reaction.
Don't tell me blocking. Look at that, man. He didn't look it in very well, but he made the play. You know you're having a good night for the Minnesota Vikings when even Mike Tyson's making plays catching the football.
2nd punt for Barker. Burleson waiting deep. Jew in his face. Ball comes out. The Vikings end up on top of it.
I'll tell you, how many times have we seen the ball on the ground and the same team is able to recover it?
At least 3 times today. Shaw was there to save it for the Vikings, who have the ball and a 14-point lead.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Lexus and their passionate pursuit of perfection.
Green Bay Packers sideline trying to pump itself up. Moss has to keep his neck loose to be able to whip his head back hard enough to get the hair in place to put the helmet on. Talk about Moss here as the Vikings have it, a 14-point lead. It's 1st and 10. They hand to Bennett. Looked like he was going to lose yardage on the play, and instead Bennett is brought down with a 10.5-yard gain and a 1st down for Minnesota. Who would have thought that the actions by Randy Moss would have this grand a galvanizing effect on the Minnesota Vikings? And by the way, anybody who feigned astonishment that Randy Moss would do that last week hasn't been taught anything by history. Done it a couple times under Denny Green, squirting a water bottle at an official in playoffs at St. Louis. Give me a break. That's what he does. That's him. Brady Jackson with pressure. Culpepper stays alive, but it's Peterson on top of him for Green Bay. And a loss of 2 on the play. Kenny Peterson did not have a sack all year, and he is there for Green Bay on that 1st down play.
And obviously, Joe, to follow up on what you were saying, a lot of discussion this week as far as what Randy Moss did. But the thing that was impressive to me was what Matt Burke did at the end of that game and what Dante Culpepper did during the week. And those two guys stepped up and said that it was wrong. They were very vocal about it. They clearly are the leaders of this team, and I think that this team has rallied around those guys and not rallying around Randy Moss.
2nd down and 12. And that'll be on right tackle Adam Goldberg.
Ball start, number 73, offense. 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
You watch Matt Burke, the center, and Grady Jackson, number 75. These two have been battling all day, and Matt Burke, he's outweighed by Grady Jackson by quite a bit. He goes down low to avoid contact. Grady didn't like it. Of course, Grady's working off of that bad knee.
Burke saying, "Are you kidding? What do you want me to do?" 2nd down and 17. Culpepper in trouble. Green Bay defense trying to step up, and a good tackle by Roman. This Green Bay defense before the end of the day has got to figure it out and make a stop, and they're trying to do it right here. A gain of only 3 there by Culpepper.
Well, KGB has been trying to apply some pressure around the side. Adam Goldberg is who he's working against right now. He does get the pressure up the field, but as we've seen throughout the course of this game, Dante Culpepper, not easy to get on the ground, but a great job by Mark Roman and a huge play in the game right now.
Crowd's back, 3rd and 14. Extra men coming on the rush. Hunt can't bring down Culpepper, and the pass incomplete.
This game is just completely the opposite of what we typically see out of the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay's defense is stepping up and making plays, and Green Bay's offense continues to make mistakes.
At least the Green Bay defense did on that series. 24-10, and the Packers about to get it back.
You can't ask for any more than what the Packers have done defensively here in the 2nd half of this game.
It high. Fair catch. Chapman. Jack Clifton testing out the ankle, hoping he can return. Favre hopes he can return. Green Bay has the ball. Under 6 minutes to play in the 3rd quarter. Green Bay with the ball down 14. First down, play action. Favre fires, and Chapman in front of Chapman. It's picked off again. Intercepted by Williams. Another Brett Favre interception. That's 4.
And another breakdown in what they're trying to do offensively. That time there were 2 wide receivers in the general area of each other, and that didn't help with the pattern.
24-10, Vikings.
This NFC wildcard game is brought to you by Elektra, the next movie from the world of Marvel Comics, Friday only in theaters. By WebMD, redefining modern medicine. By Capital One, what's in your wallet? And by Coors Light, the coldest tasting beer in the world, Coors Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL and Super Bowl 39.
The Vikings defense has not played like this under Mike Tice in a big game ever. They intercepted 11 passes all year. They have 4 today. They get the ball back, starting from just inside their own 40. Now Culpepper's in trouble. He gets rid of it, and there is no flag for grounding. In the area maybe was Bennett, and the ball was just shy of getting back to the line of scrimmage. Big pressure by Campman on Culpepper. 2nd and 10. Let's go back to the interception.
Well, Brett Favre has been facing pressure that he really hasn't seen all season. The blitz coming this time, and Claiborne's going to get right in his face. But this ball really late getting out to Chapman. I really felt like Chapman had a pretty good move on the outside, was open, and Brett just didn't get him the ball quickly enough.
Credit Ted Cottrell, the defensive coordinator, the embattled Ted Cottrell. Minnesota Vikings, his defensive team is ready to play today. Moss over the middle. Gets hit hard, and he's dropped a yard shy of a first down. 3rd and 1 coming up. KGB on the tackle.
And the Packers on the last interception here of this half, they did a great job of stopping the Vikings offensively and not giving up any points. And now here they are being asked to do the same thing. Very difficult to do when you're given an explosive offense like the Vikings, this kind of field position, but it's obvious. Brett Favre is not playing at the level that he's capable of playing, and right now it's going to have to be this defense that's going to keep this team in it.
3rd down and 1. That was Moss's first catch since the first quarter. They flip it on the edge. It's Ontario Smith. The first guy there was Navy's. It depends on the spot, and it looks like, and they did, Minnesota got just enough for a first down.
Well, Navy saw it all the way and was just unable to make the open field tackle, something we've talked about repeatedly. He smells this one all the ways. Get him in the backfield, one-on-one, open field, and just unable to make the play on Ontario Smith.
Under 4.5 to play, 3rd quarter, first down, Minnesota. Bennett brought down. Wrapped up initially by Nick Barnett. Diggs was there as well, a loss of 3. Tonight, as the world becomes more dangerous, there's only one man we can trust. Jack's back. The most critically acclaimed series on television, 24. The 2-night premiere event begins after this game in its entirety right here on Fox. 2nd down and 13 for the Vikings. Culpepper skips it in there to Wiggins, incomplete. 3rd down and 13 for Minnesota.
You know, that time Green Bay defensively went back to their cover 2 shell. We talked about it a little bit earlier. That's a coverage that gave Minnesota some problems 2 weeks ago. Minnesota's not had a lot of answers to it. You've got to be patient when you're facing that, and that's why Dante Culpepper tried coming underneath.
No takeaways today for this Green Bay defense.
Let's see if they bring pressure. 3rd and long.
They do bring it on a blitz, and Culpepper goes down. The Green Bay defense stiffens up again, a loss of 5 and a punt coming from the Vikings.
You know, this really looks more like the first game of the season, whether the Packers played against the Carolina Panthers, and they did this repeatedly all night long, and their pressure got there. They're bringing safeties, they're bringing corners, they're bringing linebackers, and it is having an effect on this Vikings offense.
When you bring pressure, you force your offensive linemen to block one-on-one without any help, and when they do that, the guys up front for Green Bay have won the battles.
That's the 4th Packers sack of the day. Cullen Jenkins was the first one there. Arcal Trula, Cledius Hunt. This is Chapman going backward. And Antonio Chapman is going to be marked at the 22. Can Brett Favre get it together? He and the Packer offense back to work, down 14.
The greatest source of America's generosity is the good heart of the people.
In the aftermath of the devastating tsunami, we come to you not as presidents, but as two private citizens.
Everyone can help, and every dollar contributed will impact someone's life. So visit usafreedomcorps.gov to choose a reputable, authorized charity to accept your donations directly.
No one can change what happened,
but we can all change what happens next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2:53 left in the third quarter. And from all of us on our remote crew out here at Lambeau Field, we give a big pat on the back to Richie Basile. Rich Basile is our technical director. Suffered with kidney stones, had those removed less than 48 hours ago, and he's in the chair today, listening to Artie Kempner and following his every direction. So thanks for being here, Richie. Let's go down to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, Javon Walker, who didn't even bother taking off his coat on the Packers' last offensive possession, is officially ruled out. You may have seen him being taken off on a cart. Again, it's a shin injury to his left leg, and he is definitely done for the day.
All right, Pam, so the heels of losing Ferguson, now they don't have Walker, who had a Pro Bowl year. Out of the backfield, Amon Green. And does he have room to run? He got smacked. Winfield was there. E.J. Henderson was there. A gain of 14, but a first down for Green Bay at their own 47.
Yeah, and watch the linebackers. Green Bay runs 3 verticals up the field, and as you're going to see, all the linebackers turning and running with receivers, and because of that, there's nobody underneath. Brett recognizes it. He gets the ball underneath to Amon Green, and a big play.
Well, let's be honest, the real problems with this Minnesota Vikings defense all year long as Davenport gets it on the toss. He loses the football. The ball comes out, and now the scramble. It could be yet another turnover for the Green Bay Packers. And the Green Bay Packers have it. It appears at the bottom of that pile, Lucci is down there, Tauscher is down there, and Davenport almost gave it up to Minnesota.
Well, we told you about Willie Alford, and he was a bit of a liability in coverage, but you saw him drop his shoulder there and make a huge hit on Davenport, and I'm not sure the Green Bay Packers can survive yet another turnover.
That was Tauscher who ended up with the ball. I started to say, Troy, the problem for this Minnesota defense all year long, the real Achilles heel has been at the linebacker level, and those guys, for the most part, have played well today.
They have played well, yeah. They've been good in run defense pretty much for the whole year. Where they've been a liability is when they've had to get out in space and then cover people. But even today in coverage, they've done a pretty good job. And even on the last play to Amon Green, at least they've gotten depth, and they're not giving up the big plays, which is something that has hurt them in the 2 previous matchups against the Packers.
There's a look at Corey Chavis, who's out with a broken left elbow. On the sideline, Favre guns it. Pass caught. Donald Driver on a first down.
Just so you understand, and we're not making this stuff up, historically, if you use opposing quarterback ratings as the barometer, these are the 2 worst pass defenses that have ever played in the playoffs in the National Football League. So the fact that they've both come out here in the second half and had pretty good showings is almost remarkable. But now you can see that Brett Favre is starting to warm up and starting to get it going.
About half a minute left in this third quarter. First down from just inside the Minnesota 28. Pass complete to Driver, and the Packers at this point have just about abandoned the run altogether. That could be the final play of the third quarter if the Packers choose to let this go down to the other end of the field.
Well, and what the Packers recognize is even though they struggled, even though Brett Favre has had 4 interceptions in this game, if they're able to turn this drive into a touchdown, it then becomes a 1-possession game, down 7, and it's anybody's game going into the 4th.
Second down and 3, they toss to Amon Green. And Amon Green rolls forward with a first down at the 15-yard line. A rare scoreless quarter between Green Bay and Minnesota. Green Bay on the move. Down 14. Back after this from your local Fox station. The entire football world watching this one to see who will win and advance and set up next week's matchups in the NFC. Brett Favre trying to steer his team down the field and into the end zone. Out of the backfield, it's Lucci who gets flipped. Brought down at the 10. They'll mark him at the 9. It was Brian Williams on the tackle, a gain of 6.
Well, you can just see that Brett Favre is starting to feel it. You go back to Christmas Eve when these two teams met. Brett threw an interception in the fourth quarter, and from that moment on, he was just nearly flawless going up and down the field as he brought the Packers back, and he's starting to get that look in his eyes here once again.
Perfect on this drive. Mike Wall at left tackle, Rugemer at left guard, Wells at center. Second down and 4, and a toss to Green, running left, cuts it up. Ahman Green is going to be marked down inside the 1. First and goal.
And Joe, you mentioned Mike Wall playing tackle and the job that he does in order to create a little space. He's there driving Kenichi Udeza outside, and that opens up enough room there for Ahman Green to get up, and it was close.
You wonder if his knee was down before he ended up on the goal line, and he comes off limping. Najee Davenport is in the backfield along with Lucci. It's first and goal. Davenport. Touchdown. Davenport with bad ribs and a bad shoulder gets it across. With the extra point coming, and on a day like this with his field, that's no given. It could be a 7-point game.
Boy, you really have to credit Najee Davenport going out there with a shoulder injury and putting that shoulder down and getting the touchdown. You know he is in pain right now.
It's 24-17, a 7-point game.
This NFC wildcard game is brought to you by Hummer. Check out the H2, Hummer like nothing else. By HP, services and technology help companies face, manage, and love change. By DirecTV, get DirecTV DVR with TiVo service. Now you can watch all your favorite shows when you want. And by Bud Light, fresh, smooth, real. It's all here.
Did anybody really doubt that by the end of this game it would tighten up? It was at one point 17-0 Minnesota. It's now a 7-point game. Brian Williams was injured trying to block that last extra point. Able to get off the field. He's getting looked at. And after a scoreless third quarter, then the first minute and a half of the fourth quarter, Green Bay's in the end zone, and it's 24-17. Mewelde Moore is out to the 34-yard line. Corey Chavis, broken elbow, injured, not able to play. Playing cheerleader, trying to get the Vikes going again. Their lead down to 7. It's a 24-17 Minnesota lead, and now the Vikings offense trying to get something going. He's not ready to leave yet. Lining up wide to the left at the top of your screen, looking into the eyes of Al Harris. First down, Minnesota. Culpepper, a safe throw, Robinson. And a sure tackle that time, Ahmad Carroll. Let's go down to Chris Myers.
Joe, if you look at Randy Moss's right ankle that was taped recently, he suffered a severely right sprain there. That's the same side of the leg where he had the hamstring problem earlier in the year. Overheard at the Viking bench when he was there with the trainer was, break my leg off if you have to. I want to be out there.
Second down and 6.
We're just watching him on that last route. He can barely move. I think Al Harris can cover him now one-on-one.
Culpepper. Penalty flag. Incomplete. And a flag came in on the near side of the field. A wide open part of the field, and they're going to call a hold against Green Bay, which will give Minnesota a first down.
While the quarterback was still in the pocket, and before the ball was thrown, holding, number 28, defense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
They even went to the extent of putting boxing gloves on Ahmad Carroll during weeks of practice to try to get him from grabbing receivers.
Well, he's been called a number of times all year. That time he tries coming up initially and getting the jam on Nate Burleson. He was okay, but he kept contact with him after the 5 yards. And even after 16 games, Ahmad Carroll still hasn't figured it out.
And Randy Moss now looks like he's going off the field.
On first down, Culpepper doesn't have Moss to throw to. Fires incomplete. Burleson with Carroll coming up his back. No flag. Incomplete. 2nd and 10, and Moss is coming back on the field.
Starting to get some pressure now on Dante Culpepper, and they're doing it with just 4. I believe that's Cledius Hunt, who was benched a week ago for a lack of effort. He didn't even understand, apparently, that he was getting benched. And after a brief meeting with Mike Sherman, I think he understood fully that he got benched after Sherman got finished with him.
They bring Joey Thomas, an extra corner in. They take Roman, the safety, out on 2nd and 10. Culpepper over the middle. Pass is complete. That's Burleson, and he was popped by Sharper. It'll bring up 3rd down.
Yeah, and that's how you try to play those crossing routes. That time, Darren Sharper sees him coming across the field, does a good job of recognizing it, and then he drives on Nate Burleson so he can't run after the catch.
But now without Moss being much of a factor in this game because of the ankle, the safeties are able to come down and help in a way that they haven't been able to do the rest of the game.
Moss is at the bottom of your screen. Third and 6. Culpepper fires, and it's complete. First down, Nate Burleson, who has stepped up twice this year already against the Green Bay Packers with huge games.
Yeah, he's had over 100 yards in both of the previous games against them, and I don't know that there's any catch bigger than this one right here as far as keeping the drive alive. No question the Green Bay Packers defensively have done an excellent job here in the second half of controlling this Vikings offense. That was a big 3rd down conversion, keeping the drive alive, giving the Vikings an opportunity to potentially turn this again into a 2-possession game.
Vikings the best in the league this year at converting on 3rd down. Ontario Smith. Navy's the first one there. Barnett as well, a gain of 6.5 with over 11 to play in the 4th quarter.
And I think the Green Bay Packers have to recognize the injury to Randy Moss now and change out of this cover 2 defense. They don't need the safety help right now. Al Harris has it. Randy Moss is clearly struggling to get up and down the field, and it's really nothing more than a decoy now. So they can drop a safety down, helping some of the underneath coverage. They don't have to double Randy the way they did early in the game.
2nd down and 4.
Well, they're not doubling him now.
Blitz. Passes. There's going to be a flag on the play. Burleson has become Dante Culpepper's favorite receiver here in the 4th quarter. And this one is against the Packers, Ahmad Carroll.
While the quarterback was in the pocket and before the pass was thrown, illegal contact. Number 28, defense. That's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. First down.
The big part of it before the pass was thrown. So instead of pass interference, it is a first down, but it's just a 5-yard penalty.
And I'll tell you what, I thought that one was awfully close. I thought he might have gotten his hands off him within the 5 yards. You talk about Nate Burleson and what he's done. In the 2 previous games, he's had receptions of 24, 40, 42, and 68 yards, and he's having a heck of a game here again today.
Vikings are not inside field goal range for Morton Anderson.
Culpepper,
Moss. Randy Moss is in for a touchdown.
Al Harris playing off, bit up on the route, and Randy Moss, without even really being able to run, as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss, and it's unfortunate that we had that on our air live. That is disgusting by Randy Moss.
Well, let's get back to the play. Randy Moss, I don't even think that was called in the huddle. You see him start to the slant. Al Harris jumps it. He gives him the hand. Dante Culpepper, fortunately, sees what Randy Moss is wanting to do and lays it out.
And for some reason, they go to the off coverage, because when Al Harris was up on Moss, he really couldn't move at all, and they took full advantage.
Randy Moss gets the touchdown. Does a classless act after it. Dante Culpepper celebrates. It's a 14-point game again.
This NFC wildcard game on Fox is brought to you by Saturn. People first.
Plenty of action going on each sideline, with Moss limping up and down. Mark Robin, Darren Sharper, Al Harris, the defensive backs getting into it for the Packers. It's been a frustrating year for Mark Roman. He's had a rough year. They've been on him up here in Green Bay. And it's Randy Moss getting his second of the day as Davenport takes in the short kick. And Najee Davenport stays on his feet. Good return out to the 35-yard line. They'll actually mark him at the 34. And we go back to the touchdown throw by Culpepper.
Yeah, you see Dante, he gives the signal there. That's the slant and go signal. He saw Al Harris off and thought that they could take advantage.
And Al Harris saw it too, and he thought he was going to jump and get the interception. I mean, literally, Randy Moss could barely run on the outside, and he goes right by Al Harris.
Well, that answers the question that maybe Al Harris still does need some safety help over the top. That's the move there by Marcus Robinson on the inside.
You could see Joey Thomas asking for a flag, but there was no penalty flag, as there may have been movement by Robinson just prior to the snap as he was readjusting out there.
But the wide receiver is allowed to move as long as he reestablishes himself, and that's exactly what happened there. What really surprises me, though, is that Al Harris went to the off coverage, because as long as he was jamming Randy on that bad ankle, he couldn't make a move to get away from it.
First down for Green Bay after the completion, under 10 to play. And this fourth quarter, and the pass, good throw to Chapman. And Antonio Chapman has a first down for the Packers. Packers trying to get back into it. Now down 14 points again, and Brett Favre, who got hot on the last possession, trying to crank it up and get him down the field once again.
Yeah, they did a great job on the last possession of going in and getting the point. Unfortunately for them, their defense could not hold serve, but now again, it's on the right arm of Brett Favre to get him back in.
Ryan Williams, a cornerback for Minnesota. That's incomplete. Ryan Williams, a cornerback for Minnesota, is out with leg cramps at the moment. And we've got Terrence Shaw playing in his spot across the field from Antoine Winfield. That pass was incomplete, even though there was a little fight for the ball. It's 2nd and 10. Tony Fisher couldn't make the grab.
Terrence Shaw did start the 4 games for Antoine Winfield when he was out. So the drop-off should not be that severe, but I think where you get into some situations now is when you get into your nickel and dime packages, do you have the cover guys to cover 4 wideouts?
2nd down and 10. Favre fires short. Pass intended for Andre Thurman.
And you wonder how the timing's going to be. You see Brett Favre, he turned that ball loose much earlier than what Andre Thurman was expecting the ball to be coming his way. You've got to believe that Andre Thurman ran the route too deep, and that's why the timing was off. You see Brett Favre talking to him, you got to speed it up. You got to get in and out of those breaks, and they're trying right now to get back into this game with a variety of players that haven't played very much, and then the offensive line that's going to have to move around.
Favre goes down as he's tripped up. Lance Johnstone was back there along with Darian Scott, and Favre ended up getting tripped That brings up 4th down.
Lance Johnstone has essentially become the designated rusher on the outside, and Mike Wall playing a position he's not very familiar with, having to play that tackle position on the outside, but actually does a decent job. Just nobody open down the field for Brett.
Nate Burleson waiting for the punt from Barker. Under 8.5 to play. Minnesota with their 14-point lead. May get it back. Burleson, did he get back on top of it? He did.
Of course he did. I haven't seen anything like this.
The time a guy loses it, either he or a member of his team is able to get back on top of it. Little fight going on the field. They're able to separate the players. 14-point Minnesota lead. They've got the ball. They salute the late and great Reggie White here at Lambeau Field, the Packers' first home game since his passing 2 Sundays ago at the age of 43. And it's this Packer defense now that's trying to rewrite the ending to this one. Nick Barnett, Kenny Peterson out there to make the stop on that first play by the Vikings. No gain. You compare the two quarterbacks, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions for Culpepper, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions for Favre, and the rest of the numbers, those are the biggest ones, even with that great quarterback rating for Dante Culpepper, who was over 110 for the whole year.
11 touchdowns and no interceptions against this Packers defense now for Dante Culpepper in 3 games.
2nd down and 10. Culpepper fires to Kelly Campbell. That's his first catch of the day. And Campbell has a Vikings first down just shy of the 30.
You know, you talk about Dante Culpepper and what he's been able to do. There's been a lot of pressure on this football team, really, for about the last 6 games of the season to win in order to get into the playoffs. And yet the last 4 games of the season, he probably had his best 4 games that he had had at any other point during the regular season. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. You add 4 touchdowns to that. He's had a heck of a run, and you certainly can't place blame with him as to why this team did not come into the playoffs playing better.
How about those numbers for Culpepper against Green Bay in his last 5 games? 16 interceptions, or rather 16 touchdowns, no interceptions, as Mike Tice came flying down the sideline and called timeout.
Minnesota.
So with Moss on the sideline, Minnesota spends their first timeout of this second half. This is the NFL on Fox. Tonight, as the world becomes more dangerous, there's only one man we can trust. Jack's back in the most critically acclaimed series on television. 24, the 2-night premiere event begins right after this game in its entirety, right here on Fox. Critics love the premiere episode. We know you will as well. Starting from their 30 now with a first down after getting that initial first down and the completion to Campbell. They hand it to Bennett. Michael Bennett has nowhere to go. He picks up 1. Kyle Diggs was the first to get there for the Packers.
You know, we talked a little bit about Dante Culpepper before we went to commercial there, and you know, here's a guy as great a season as he has had, and he has had one of the greatest years in the history of the game at that position. Not a lot of people, when you ask them who the best quarterbacks in the league are, mention Dante Culpepper right off the tip of their tongue. And the reason is he's not been able to separate himself in the big games on the big stage. Well, he gets that opportunity today, and he really has made the most of it here this afternoon.
2nd down and 9 for Dante Culpepper. Handoff is to Ontario Smith. And Smith will take it out to the 33. Let's go to Chris Myers.
On the Vikings sideline, Joe, you mentioned earlier the retro hairstyle reminiscent of the former Major League player Oscar Gamble. Randy Moss wearing it. About 8 or 9 other Viking players doing it. And it's a show of unity. It's that us against the world kind of thing. They did it last year for the first time in a game against the Chiefs and scored 45 points. I'm told it was Randy's idea. Right now, he is continuing to rest that sore ankle.
I think Mike Tice's week would have been a lot better last week if they'd have shown some unity in that last week's game.
3rd down and 7. Moss just came back in the game. He's at the top of your screen across from Al Harris. out of the shotgun on third down, setting up the screen. Ontario Smith is knocked down at midfield, and from the 50-yard line, the Vikings will set up with a first down, 16 yards on the screen pass to Smith with Dave Dixon out in front of him.
David Dixon, all 360 pounds of him, leading the way, and he is playing on a very bad knee. He's struggled throughout the course of the season. And Ontario Smith on a screen pass, and one that the Green Bay Packers probably should have anticipated. You knew the Vikings were going to do something fairly safe there. They come out, and David Dixon hurting once again.
But Dave Dixon wants to come back and play next year.
Hand off to Ontario Smith, running left. Vikings making sure they hang on to the football. Colin Jenkins on the tackle after Smith got full.
Say Dave Dixon wants to come back and play next year. He's a free agent. He said he's willing to take a pay cut, willing not even to have to be the starter to come back and play. And he has started each of the games over the last 2 years and has been one of the more dependable linemen that they've had.
Green Bay just spent their first timeout of this second half.
Just to give you some idea of how bad Randy Moss's ankle is, watch him up here. He literally just cannot even move. And when Al Harris was playing him in bump and run coverage, that was essentially what was happening on that side of the field. And yet by going to the off coverage and allowing Randy Moss to run that slant and go, they just gave away a touchdown to a guy that really did not have his legs underneath him.
You look at a postseason fact. 3 road teams have never won a single wild card weekend. And you look at the scores, St. Louis won at Seattle. The Jets won in San Diego. And then the game earlier today, Indianapolis dismantling the Denver Broncos.
Well, yeah, and then you look at the Rams, who are 8-8 and winning the game. And then if the Vikings win here today, being 8-8, prior to this weekend's wild card games, no 8-8 team had ever won in the playoffs.
It's second down and 6 from Minnesota. Moss is on the bench, and they hand to Ontario Smith. Plenty of room to run, and Smith is down inside the 30 to the 29, and the Vikings are on their way to icing this game in Green Bay.
You know, this is one of the areas where they have struggled and not been very consistent this season in running the football, but they've done a good job here today. Look at the crease inside, and Bennett, with his speed, he starts stretching him to, Ontario Smith starts stretching him to the outside, and then he's able to get inside those blocks. A good job by this offensive line, who's now starting to wear down this Packer defense.
17-yard run by Ontario Smith, first down for the Vikings. They keep it on the ground, and they will continue to do that as Ontario Smith brought down by Hunt, a loss of 1.
You know, the one guy this week that Mike Tice was probably toughest on was Bryant McKinney, their left tackle and the former 7th pick overall in the NFL draft. And Tice told him, listen, it is just time for you to start playing better. You have not lived up to our expectations. He got all over him in practice, embarrassed him to some degree. And today we just have not heard much from KGB or anybody else coming around the corner like we've seen in the past.
You know, Joe, you talk about what has happened this weekend in some of these wild card games, and take this one, for instance. You know, all the discussion about how Minnesota was struggling coming in, having lost 4 of their last 5 games. The Packers, on the other hand, had won 9 of their last 11. And at the end of today, what does all that matter? What matters is that it appears the Vikings are going to be going on and playing in the divisional playoff game, and the Packers season will be over. And I think a lot of times people get so caught up as far as what kind of season somebody's had, and when you get into the playoffs, none of that matters anymore. Do you think the San Diego Chargers feel good that they played so well this year? They're done.
Second down and 12 now for the Vikings. And surprisingly, at least out of a throwing formation, it's Culpepper keeping it. He's to the 30. He picked up 1 for a moment like he might put it up, but the Vikings just want to keep it on the ground and make Green Bay spend their final timeout right here with 3:33 left. So the Packers out of timeouts, and you look at the Packers' miscues today, and while you look at that list, you think about Mike Sherman and about his long-term future here with the Green Bay Packers. Everybody talked about Mike Tice coming in. To his credit, And I think to the credit of, in his words, the real leader on this Vikings team, that's Matt Burke, the center. They've pulled everybody together and they've come in here and played easily their best overall game of the year. And now you've got Sherman, who's only signed through next year. He's the head coach, general manager. He doesn't have to answer to an owner. And yet you wonder about the long-term future. At some point, they're going to have to start talking about extension with Sherman. And he's still waiting to take those big strides that Mike Holmgren took before him here with the Packers.
Well, it's not going to happen until they improve the defense. And last season, they made the move with Ed Donatel, firing him, bringing in Bob Slowick, and the defense simply got worse this season. And if they want to make that next step, they're going to have to do it on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they had a good year, had a very bad day today, but the defense is when they struggle.
3rd down and 11. They hand to Ontario Smith. And Smith is going to be brought down just shy of a first down. They are inches short, and it will be 4th down. We'll see what the Vikings do. They're going to call the change out measure, and the Minnesota Vikings, I would imagine, just line up and try to plow forward for the first down.
Yeah, why not? And you know, I think that as far as the Minnesota Vikings, and we came into this game talking about the fact that they had been under so much pressure over the last half of this season because they didn't want this year to be what happened last year to them when they collapsed and failed to make the playoffs. And I really think that this game was the first time in a long time that they've been able to come out and play without a lot of pressure on them. And they've certainly played that way in this game because this is not an easy place to come into as an opposing team and play well and win, and yet they've been able to do that.
The Green Bay Packers, Chris, are staring at their second home playoff loss within the last couple of seasons. 2 years ago, they lost here to the Atlanta Falcons and Michael Vick. Now they're in danger of losing one to the Minnesota Vikings, and that'll be all but a certainty if the Vikings can pick up this first down right here on 4th and inches. And this would be the 5th home loss this year for the Packers.
And any chance they have, they're going to have to stop Dante Culpepper on a quarterback sneak for 1 inch.
Well, Culpepper is the Vikings' leading rusher.
I would tell you that I'm not so sure that kicking the field goal here is not the best thing.
Culpepper goes forward and appears to have enough for a first down, and he does.
I mean, if they kick the field goal there, they make it a 17-point game, which is then a 3-possession game with under 3 minutes to play.
I think the issue, though, is the footing and is an aging Morton Anderson that doesn't have the drive he once had. And if you're going to trust the footing with the kind of field conditions we have, I just don't think they're willing to roll the dice.
And what I would say to you then is that they better go out and look for another kicker for next week, because if you can't trust that your kicker is going to be able to put it through the uprights and keep his footing in a playoff game, you got the wrong guy kicking.
Well, it's already happened once today with Morton Anderson.
Well, that, and you have a pulling guard playing quarterback at about 260 pounds. Give him a chance to make an inch.
So the clock will wind down to the 2-minute warning. The Vikings are on their way to a date with the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 minutes left in this game. 14-point Viking lead. Could this be the final piece of the wild card weekend puzzle? You've got Mike Martz and the Rams moving on. You've got the Jets in overtime winning at San Diego. The Indianapolis Colts rolling earlier today. And the Minnesota Vikings, it appears, will move on and play at Philadelphia next weekend on Sunday afternoon. Handoff is to Ontario Smith. He'll bring up 3rd down. And just to put one last word on the situation with Randy Moss, a lot will be said with what he did after the touchdown on the catch in this end zone down to our right. He just can't seem to get out of his own way. And along what you guys talked about earlier, despite him and despite the act that happened last week with him leaving with 2 seconds left on the clock, the rest of this group got together and put together a tremendous effort here at Green Bay and Lambeau Field today. So hats off to Mike Tice for what he did guiding this team to what appears to be a 14-point win at Green Bay.
And really, Mike Sherman, in his comments to us yesterday, really had his hands on it when he said that I am most concerned with the fact that this Minnesota Vikings team has had so much turmoil this week. They had the embarrassing loss. They talked about the collapse. They had the Randy Moss incident. Sometimes that does something to a football team. They sort of close the doors and it turns into an us against the world type of mentality. And for whatever reason, agree with it, disagree with it, Randy Moss, bad ankle and all, this Minnesota Vikings team came out here and got it done and jumped on Green Bay from the start. That first 10 minutes or so of the game was simply the difference here today.
Well, I think there's criticism. There has been criticism, I should say, with this Vikings team in the fact that they have not had leaders that step up and have been able to help this team close out games. And I think when you look at what transpired this past week, if nothing else, we learned that the Vikings do have leaders, and at least those guys are Dante Culpepper and Matt Burke and the job that they've done. And couldn't be prouder for the job that these Vikings have done here today.
You go back to week 2, the Eagles and the Vikings. McNabb runs for a touchdown. Culpepper passed for 343 yards, but had a key fumble at the Eagles' 2-yard line. And in the end, the Eagles beat the Minnesota Vikings 27-16, and they're in line for a rematch. And we're having the pouring of the Gatorade on top of Ted Cottrell, the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, with 29 seconds left. On 4th down, the Vikings are going to hand it to Ontario Smith. The Packers will take over at their own 15 with 23 seconds remaining. And Ted Cottrell ought to be awfully proud with the way his defense played today.
I think the last time a defensive coordinator got dunked with Gatorade was Buddy Ryan in 1985 with the Chicago Bears.
That carried off, but there's no question that the return of Antoine Winfield today has made this defense a different football team. He's been gone for about 4 weeks, and this defense, to me, is really the story. Yes, Randy Moss made some plays. Dante Culpepper was terrific, but this is probably the best game we've seen defensively out of the Minnesota Vikings this season.
And it will be the end of a very disappointing afternoon and evening for the Green Bay Packers right here with 23 seconds left. Down by 14, Favre throws it to Tony Fisher, and Fisher cannot get out of bounds. The Green Bay Packers cannot stop the clock, and I guess it's fitting that Winfield comes up with that tackle. That's going to do it for this day of football at Lambeau Field. And by the way, Dante Culpepper, including the postseason guys, over 5,000 yards passing at 5,001 with what he did here this afternoon and evening at Lambeau Field. And Mike Tice with a handshake for Brett Favre. And let's go down to Chris Myers, who's with Culpepper.
All right, thanks, Joe. Congratulations, Dante. A club record tying 4 touchdown passes in the postseason. What was the difference in the confidence of this team in this particular game?
We just came out with a chip on our shoulder. You know, everybody doubted us. We just kept fighting, keep scratching. We knew we had the talent. We just got to come out and show it.
All right, and now it's on to Philadelphia against the Eagles. You saw them earlier in the year.
Yeah, we did. We saw them earlier.
Are they a different team without Terrell Owens? Beatable for you?
Well, you know, anybody's a different team in the end of the year. Definitely not having him is going to, play a factor. But we're not looking at these guys any lightly. They're still a great football team. You know, they're the first seed in the NFC, and we got to practice this week and prepare for them like that.
All right, we'll see you next weekend. Thanks, Dante. Congratulations again. All right, Joe.
All right, Chris. Thanks. Culpepper, 284 yards passing, 4 touchdown throws, 11 on the season against the Packers. Rushing 6 times, 54 yards. Dante Culpepper, the Minnesota Vikings moving on. We'll be back to wrap it up after this. There is the final score, 31-17, a 14-point win for the Minnesota Vikings and a dunking of Ted Cottrell. What a job today by the Minnesota Vikings defense. UPS delivers a chance to win the ultimate home football experience. Just log on to foxsports.com on MSN. The day for Dante Culpepper, playoff game, a mirror of what he did during the regular season. What a year he had. He continued it into January, and now this Minnesota team will move on to play the Philadelphia Eagles next weekend. Sunday, 1 Eastern. Subway postgame show is coming up. JB and the gang. Don't forget, season premiere 24 coming up tonight. Vikings moving on. Wild card weekend is officially over.
It's the Subway Postgame Show, brought to you by Subway. It's what to eat when you want to eat fresh. Subway, eat fresh.
Tonight on Fox, it's the season premiere everyone's been waiting for, 24. Now, if you haven't seen 24, now's your chance to get on board television's greatest thrill ride. The nonstop season of 24 begins with the 2-hour premiere next, except on the West Coast. All right, folks, and we welcome you back here to Studio A here in Los Angeles, California for the Subway Postgame Show. Let me just talk in general terms first, Coach. Again, it happened the way Mike Sherman was afraid it might happen.
Yeah, and, you know, I watched Mike Tice in practice this Thursday. He was into practice as intense as I have seen in a long, long time. He's been under a lot of pressure, but congratulations on this win.
Well, we knew it could go either way. If Minnesota were to score early, we talked about it before the game, they had an opportunity to jump out, gain some momentum, gain some enthusiasm, come together as a football team. They did that. If they had given up scores early to Green Bay, who knows what direction it could have gone. Minnesota's explosive.
Yeah, they are. And for you Green Bay Packer fans, it's the first time since '91 when Lenny Infante was your head coach that you've now had a losing record at Lambeau Field. Mike Sherman with 1 year left on his contract as head coach and general manager. Now you have to ask the question, will there be an extension? Right now, it would not look that favorable for him.
All right, visual embellishments as the Blonde Bomber packs in a little education with the highlights. Let's get started right now with the Blonde Bomber.
It's my Harvard training.
Yes,
all
indeed.
Right, let's have some fun here. Green Bay, Lambeau Field. What a great place to play a football game. Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss coming into this game having lost 4 or 5. Strike early, 20-yard touchdown pass, the old fly pattern to Randy Moss, 14-0, Vikings on top. But Brett Favre answers, as you would expect that he would, driving the pack down, 4-yard hook route turnaround, that is. Bubba Franks catches it 4-yard, version 17-10, Vikings. And then, quick post, or the slant, whatever you want to call it. Nate Burleson is there, 19-yard strike, 24-10. Second half now, Dontarius Thomas hits Brett Favre right as he releases the football. Ball is deflected by Brian Russell and picked off by Ralph Brown, third pick on the day. Favre would end up with 4 interceptions. Culpepper stands in the pocket, rolls right, spots Moss. Moss, 2 touchdown receptions on the day, 70-yard. Culpepper, 4 touchdown passes, and your final is Vikings on the road, 31-17. 2 times now in the last 3 years, Green Bay has lost at home in a playoff game. Remember, the other one was to Michael Vick and the Atlanta Falcons.
Randy Moss has 9 career touchdowns in the playoffs, tied with Andre Reed and Lynn Swann for 5th most all-time. Chris Myers caught up with Randy Moss after the game to talk about the game and that move after the touchdown.
All right, Randy, congratulations on the win. You in pain right now?
I'm a little bit of pain, man, but I really don't feel the pain after a victory, man. It feels good to come into Lambeau and not steal a victory, but beat them up pretty good. And it felt really good to really come out here and get us a victory today.
How about 2 touchdown catches, but the kind of the moon move in the end zone afterwards? What was that all about?
Just playing, just having a little fun, man. I didn't mean no harm, just having fun with the boys a little bit. So I guess I was just enthused. I scored a touchdown, man. It's just a touchdown celebration. I hope I don't get in trouble by it, but if I do, I'll take the heat.
And just finally here, your actions, do you think it brought this team together in this game? Your actions of last week?
Nah, I think you guys blew that up and left it up to my coaching staff and players to answer the questions all week. So it was a bit of a bumpy road throughout the week, you know, with me walking off the field, but we whooped that.
All right, thanks, Fred. I'm glad you hung around. All right, JB, back to you.
We blew it up, JB. Blew it up. Wait, is this Disneyland? I mean, I don't follow this guy.
The Vikings and Randy Moss, after a controversial week where he was a lightning rod around the league, he walked off the football field. We didn't blow it up. Randy Moss drew attention to himself on national television. Now, here's the deal. He has an opportunity to go out and play well. Throws a great block on the Mo Williams run to spring Mo Williams for the first touchdown, 2 touchdown catches, and then he makes that end zone celebration that he talked about, and it just goes to show you that class and talent don't always go hand in hand.
On a positive side, I think some of the moves that Minnesota made in their defensive secondary, and especially getting Antoine Winfield back in the lineup, really caused Brett Favre to be out of rhythm, and then also getting the 4 picks. Their secondary was a big key. Obviously scoring 31 points for 3rd time in a row against Green Bay, but their defense stepped it up today.
I would like to see the NFL office. You know, I know our viewers. Are you as tired of seeing that garbage as I am? You know, as someone in New York just, you know, take some guts, make a big stand, slap a huge fine on it. Got a lot of money. Maybe something, JB, something eventually. The light bulb has to go off on this. He has to understand he is putting his team under a lot of pressure because of his childish behavior.
You know, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for my colleagues here. And you know what? And I got to be honest. I mean, as much as I try to exercise some restraint, it is absolutely unbelievable because talent only excuses so much. That was classless, ignorant, and embarrassing, and that's just calling it like it is.
Well,
all right, folks.
Some people are going to get it. Obviously, in that post-game interview and the interview with Jimmy earlier in the day that we showed, he doesn't get it.
Yeah. And that's an absolute shame.
Doesn't care either.
You know, he is tremendously talented, but again, talent only excuses so much. All right, folks, we're going